Hello everyone, I'm Michaela Kathleen, and I am officially married! So I thought it would be super fun. When I first got engaged, I did an engagement photo book tag, and our amazing photographer got our wedding photos back to us literally within 4 days of the wedding. And they look amazing, so I thought it would now be fun to do a wedding photo book tag. So all of these prompts are based on different wedding photos that we have. I'm sure they would work for most anyone, but if anyone does this tag, I would love to see other prompts that you've come up with for your specific photos. That would be super fun. I realize, again, this is a pretty niche tag, but would love to see it even if your photos are from years ago. That would be great. But jumping into my photos with my prompts, the first one I have is, of course, the dress. And for this one, the prompt is, what character is the star of the show? And this can be interpreted two ways. You could pick a character who has main character energy even though they're not the main character, someone who's just very self-focused, or you could pick a character who's the star of the show for you because you love them so much. And I decided to go with that option because I do have a character that I read earlier this year for the first time that I absolutely fell in love with. And that character was Mbot from Skyward by Brandon Sanderson. Mbot is an artificial intelligence and also a fighter jet, but Mbot's programming is not for fighting, but is instead to study mushrooms, which makes Mbot the most adorable character ever. There's a scene where the main character is excited because she's gotten Mbot something that's going to allow the plane to fly, and she tells Mbot, I got you something very exciting, and Mbot says, a mushroom? And the main character says something more exciting, and Mbot says, 2 mushrooms? I love Mbot so much. Real star of the show for me, among all books right now. Prompt number 2 is the flowers. I ordered fake flowers online, which one of the best decisions I made. They're gonna last forever. They're gonna be huge keepsakes for me, and they're really beautiful, and they're from Budget Bride. I bought them online. But the prompt for this is, name a book that takes place in nature. And I weirdly always associate the Ugly series by Scott Westerfeld with nature. Hear me out. This is obviously a dystopian series that takes place in a very technologically advanced place. It takes place, a lot of it, in the city. You wouldn't necessarily think of nature with these books, except that a lot of the underlying messages are about preserving nature, and our main character, Tally, travels a lot in nature, and whenever she does, she feels like that kind of reprograms her brain in a good way. So weirdly, whenever I think of nature, I think of these books. Prompt number 3 is the celebration. What character would you want to invite to your wedding to celebrate with you? And for this one, I considered going with Kath from Fangirl just because I feel like we would be really good friends. But I feel like a wedding isn't necessarily her scene, so instead I'm going with Miri from Princess Academy. I feel like Miri and me would get along pretty well also, but I feel like she would do better with the crowd of a wedding, and she just seems like she would be a very good supportive person on your wedding day, and it would bring a nice lightness to the party. Speaking of parties, prompt number 4 is the party. Pick a book with a great cast of characters. And for this one, I'm going with 6 of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. I just love all of the crows so much. I feel like Leigh Bardugo is really good at characterization, and these characters I especially love, although I maybe would not want them at my wedding. Prompt number 5 is the details. Name an author whose writing style you love. And an obvious one for me for this one would have been John Green, who is my favorite author, and I do love his writing style. There's just something about it. But I'm going to go instead with Fredrik Backman, who is somewhat of a new author for me. I've only read 2 of his books, A Man Called Ove, which I absolutely love, 5-star read, and Beartown, which I didn't love the book, but I did still love his writing style, and I did still think the book was so good, it just wasn't for me as enjoyable to read as A Man Called Ove, and I do plan to read another one of his books soon, and I have high hopes for it. I think he is just an excellent, excellent writer. Prompt number 6 is The Cake. Name a character who is sweet. And I was kind of debating between 2 on this one, but one thing pushed it over the top for me. The pun of picking Peeta the baker from The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. Peeta is just such a sweet boy, and also I thought he would be a funny pick for this one. And finally, prompt number 7 is The Couple. Name 2 characters that you want to have a happily ever after. And for this one, I would have gone with Kaz and Inej from Six of Crows because I love them and I want to see the happily ever after for them, but I already used that book, so I'm gonna go with a different couple, and I'm going with Peter and Tinkerbell from Peter Pan. Obviously, they are not a couple. It wouldn't even work for them to be a couple, technically, but Tink loves Peter always, and I just want happiness for Tinkerbell. So I'm wishing for a happily ever after, mostly for her sake. So that was it for the wedding photo book tag. Please feel free to do your own version of this book tag. I hope you enjoyed watching. Remember, words matter.